In the sacred temple of Horus, daylight filtered through the majestic columns, reflecting off ancient god statues, while the aroma of incense filled the air. The young god, adorned with falcon feathers upon his head, gazed at the altar, his heart heavy with the pain of loss. It was then that Isis, his mother, entered the scene, her eyes gleaming with the wisdom and sorrow of 1,000 years. "Horus," she said, her voice soft yet firm, "it's time for you to learn the truth about your father's death." Horus turned, the expression of sorrow on his face transforming into determination. "Mother, I need to know. How was he murdered?" Isis stepped closer, her hand caressing her son's face. "Seth, your uncle, has always desired absolute power. He employed devious schemes, traps, and betrayals to eliminate Osiris. It was not a dignified death, but an act of desperation and jealousy." Isis's words cut through the silence like a dagger, awakening a fury within Horus that he had never known. "I will avenge my father," Horus exclaimed, his eyes blazing with intense fire. "I will rally the gods and mortals against Seth. He will pay for this." With pain and rage still pulsing in his chest, Horus called an assembly. The gods, fearful, gathered under the starry sky, their immortal forms reluctant to expose themselves to Seth's wrath. "We must act now," Horus declared, his voice echoing. "Seth cannot continue to spread chaos and disorder. He must be stopped." But the gods' expressions were filled with hesitation. "What if he attacks us?" questioned Helios, the sun god. "Seth's wrath is devastating. If we do not unite, he will destroy us one by one," Horus replied, the passion in his voice growing. Yet the assembly dispersed, leaving Horus alone, immersed in thought, his determination burning within him. In that silence, an ancient oracle appeared, its words shrouded in mystery. "Horus, a great trial approaches. To defeat Seth, a sacrifice will be necessary." Horus felt the weight of those words. "I am ready," he affirmed, his voice steady. "I will do what must be done." The assembly may have dispersed, but Horus remained, gazing at the shadows cast by the flames of the torches. The journey ahead would be arduous, but he would not back down. Vengeance for his father was his only certainty, and he was prepared to face any challenge that lay in his path. Horus walked under the scorching sun of the desert, fine sand accumulating in his sandals as he sought allies. By his side, Anubis, the god of the dead, followed with heavy steps. The imposing figure of Anubis, with his jackal head and skin as dark as night, contrasted with Horus's burning determination. The wind blew, carrying the scent of jasmine from distant oases. "Horus," Anubis began, his deep voice echoing in the vastness of the desert, "you know the path will be fraught with dangers. Seth is cunning and will not hesitate to use his tricks to thwart us. I will not fear the challenges, Anubis. My father's death will not be in vain. Together, we can unite the gods and mortals against Seth's tyranny." Horus replied, rage pulsing through his veins. Anubis stopped, watching Horus with a discerning gaze. "The strength of determination is powerful, but strategy is equally important. We need more than courage to defeat a god." As they continued their journey, they spotted an oasis in the distance. The coolness of the water and the palm trees were a welcome relief. Upon arrival, they found a nearby village, where the atmosphere was heavy. The villagers, with weary faces and tired eyes, watched in fear as Seth's soldiers patrolled the streets. "We must help these innocents," Horus said, his heart pounding with compassion. Anubis hesitated but saw the determination in the young god's eyes. "If we go, we must act with caution." Horus nodded, and together they approached the village. Upon seeing a group of soldiers threatening an elder, Horus could not contain his impulse. He leaped forward, his imposing presence drawing the attention of the oppressors. "Release this man," Horus shouted, his voice resonating with authority. The soldiers, surprised, turned to him, but Horus's bravery disarmed them. He wielded his spear firmly, ready to fight. The battle was intense. Horus struck with precision, each blow fueled by fury and justice. Anubis, though hesitant, joined the fray, conjuring shadows that disoriented the soldiers. After their victory, the villagers gathered around Horus, their eyes shining with gratitude. "You saved us," exclaimed a dark-haired woman, tears streaming down her cheeks. "How can we repay you?" Horus smiled, feeling strengthened by their loyalty. "Join me in the fight against Seth. Together, we will be stronger." At that moment, a young woman named Nefertari stepped forward from the crowd. With a determined look, she approached Horus. "I have something that can help," she said, revealing an ancient dagger that gleamed in the sunlight. "This dagger has the power to wound even the gods." Horus was taken aback by the revelation. "Nefertari, you could be a valuable ally. Let's join our forces." As their connection deepened, Horus felt an unfamiliar flame grow within him. Destiny was beginning to intertwine, and hope was rekindling among the mortals. The group advanced towards Seth's palace, an imposing structure that loomed against the darkening sky, surrounded by an aura of oppression. Horus led the march, his gaze fixed on the building that symbolized tyranny. Beside him, Nefertari held the ancient dagger with both hands, her eyes shining with determination. "Are we ready for this?" she asked, concern creeping into her voice. "We're ready for anything," Horus replied, his voice steady, though the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his heart. "We can't let Seth continue to spread chaos. It's time to confront him." However, before they could approach the entrance of the palace, a storm of shadows erupted before them, grotesque creatures summoned by Seth. The monsters lunged at the group, with sharp claws and eyes glowing like embers. Horus brandished his sword, fighting off the first adversary that approached, while Anubis conjured his powers to deliver lethal blows to the creatures of darkness. "Watch out, Horus," Anubis shouted, dodging an attack. "We can't get distracted." "I know. Stay together," Horus yelled, his voice echoing amid the chaos. The battle was fierce, but the resolve of Horus and his allies prevailed. With one final blow, Horus pushed back the creature that was about to attack Nefertari. "We're almost there," he exclaimed, realizing that victory was within reach. As they arrived at the palace, Horus felt a dark presence emanating from within. "Seth is performing a ritual. We need to interrupt him before it's too late," he asserted, urgency intensifying in his voice. Nefertari's eyes lit up with an idea. "I can infiltrate. With the dagger, I can surprise him," she offered, courage pulsing in her gaze. Horus hesitated, his concern for her safety almost making him recoil. "Nefertari, it's risky. I trust you, and I know you trust me. Together, we can defeat him." She held the dagger firmly, as if the blade pulsed with ancient power. With a nod, Horus agreed. "Then let's go. We need to act fast." Thus, the group prepared for the next stage of their mission, aware that the fate of Egypt depended on their actions. However, as they moved deeper into the palace, a scream pierced the air. "Horus!" Nefertari was suddenly ensnared by shadowy tendrils that emerged from the ground, pulling her away. In a moment of despair, Horus felt his heart race. "Nefertari!" he shouted, reaching out his hand, but it was too late. She vanished into the darkness. "We can't stop. We need to rescue her," Horus declared, fury boiling in his veins. He knew he had to confront Seth, not only to save Nefertari, but also to avenge his father and restore order to the world. "I swear I will rescue her, even if it means facing my own mortality." The words left his lips like a promise, echoing in his soul as he advanced, determined to challenge the god of disorder. Horus and Anubis stealthily made their way through the dark corridors of Seth's palace. The atmosphere was thick with a palpable sense of evil. The walls adorned with hieroglyphs told stories of conquests and betrayals, as shadows danced in the flickering torchlight. "We need to be quick," Anubis murmured, his eyes alert to the movement of guards. "Seth must not know we're here." Horus nodded, anger simmering within him. "I won't let him harm Nefertari. We need to find her before it's too late." With a swift move, he dodged a deadly trap, his mind focused on the mission. As they crossed a grand hall, a group of guards appeared out of nowhere, ready to stop them. "Stop!" shouted the captain of the guards, brandishing his sword. "You are not allowed to enter here." "Then let's see if you can stop me," Horus replied, his eyes shining with determination. In a quick motion, he lunged forward, attacking with renewed energy. The battle was brief. Horus, with the agility of a falcon, and Anubis, with his shadowy strength, defeated the guards and pressed on. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they found Nefertari in a room adorned with ancient relics. She was on her knees, looking fragile, but her eyes burned with an inner fire. When he saw her, Horus felt his heart race. "Nefertari," he exclaimed. "I knew you would come," she replied, her voice steady. "But I need to warn you, Seth doesn't just plan to use me. He wants to resurrect Osiris to dominate him and use his power to control everything." Horus's face twisted in concern. "What do you mean by that?" "He wants Osiris to become a puppet, a tool of chaos under his control. We must stop him at all costs," Nefertari said, her determination evident. Horus pondered for a moment, the weight of the decision crushing him. Save Nefertari or interrupt the ritual? Doubt consumed him, but the choice was clear. Let's escape and warn the others. We can't let Seth triumph. They began to move, but before they could reach the exit, the imposing figure of Seth appeared before them, a malicious grin on his lips. "Ah, Horus, did you really think you could deceive me?" Seth laughed, his voice echoing against the palace walls. "I've always known your plans, and now, you're trapped." The tension in the air thickened as Horus and Nefertari exchanged desperate glances, realizing the fight was far from over. Inside Seth's dark and oppressive palace, palpable tension hung in the air. Horus, shackled in chains, looked at his enemy with a mix of disbelief and rage. Seth, with a sardonic smile on his lips, began to reveal the truth that Horus had never imagined hearing. "You really thought you could defeat me, Horus," Seth said, his voice resonating like a sinister echo. "The truth is, I am responsible for Osiris's death. Every step you took, every ally you gained, was carefully orchestrated by me. I've always been one step ahead." The revelation struck Horus like a sharp blade. The desire for revenge that consumed him now transformed into a burning flame of determination. "If you think this will break me, you're sorely mistaken. I will not allow you to destroy what remains of my family." At that moment, Anubis, disguised as a servant, entered the room stealthily, his eyes fixed on Horus. He sensed the intensity of the situation and, without hesitation, cast a knowing glance at Horus. "It's time, Horus. The dagger is there on the table," he whispered, pointing to the gleaming artifact. With a swift and precise movement, Horus freed himself from the chains, summoning all the strength he possessed. He lunged toward the table, feeling the power of the dagger pulse like a heartbeat. "I will unite the gods and mortals to put an end to you, Seth," Horus declared as he gripped the dagger tightly. Seth, realizing his plan was crumbling, ground his teeth in anger. "You won't succeed, Horus. No one can stop me." "Perhaps you've underestimated the strength of unity," Horus replied, his voice firm and resolute. "The tyranny you've imposed is about to end." With the dagger in hand, Horus and Anubis left the palace, determined to gather their allies and prepare for the final battle against the god of chaos. The time for revenge was drawing near, and Horus knew he had to act quickly. The unity between gods and mortals was the key to defeating Seth once and for all. The sacred lands were charged with electric energy, a foreboding sensation causing the feathers of birds to circle nervously. Horus, with Nefertari's dagger in hand, faced Seth, who loomed majestically and terrifyingly before him. The sky darkened as the two gods prepared for their final battle. Horus felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but the flame of determination burned fiercely in his heart. "You cannot win, Horus. This is my domain," Seth roared, his voice echoing like thunder. Horus, without hesitation, replied, "I will fight for everyone you've destroyed, for every tear you've caused. This is the time for justice." The clash began. Horus attacked with fury, each blow carrying the pain of a generation. Seth countered, his sharp claws slicing through the air. Nefertari's dagger shone brightly, illuminating the battlefield as Horus's allies watched, ready to intervene. During the fight, Horus felt a sharp pain in his side. He fell to his knees, gasping for breath, his vision blurring. "Horus!" Nefertari cried, leaping forward, clutching the dagger. "I can do this," she said, determination shining in her eyes. Seth laughed, a chilling and disdainful sound. "You think a mortal can hurt me? Power is far from you." Nefertari, with her heart beating in sync with Horus's, raised the dagger. "True strength doesn't lie in the artifact, but in us," she declared, delivering a powerful strike that pierced Seth's heart. The god of chaos screamed, a mix of rage and despair, as his form began to disintegrate. Horus rose, feeling the connection between him and Nefertari. "We did it," he exclaimed, and the light of the dagger enveloped them both, symbolizing the union of their spirits and their victory over tyranny. With Seth defeated, the atmosphere around them began to change. Horus, now wiser and strong, lifted his head and gazed at the horizon. But a surprising twist soon revealed itself. The cheers of victory were silenced when a deep, familiar voice echoed from a distant place. "Horus, my son, I am not lost." Horus's eyes widened. "Father?" he asked, incredulity washing over him. Even in defeat, Seth had kept Osiris imprisoned in a parallel dimension. The pain and longing Horus felt for his father transformed into a new mission. "We will free you, father," he declared, filled with determination. With the help of Nefertari and their allies, Horus began preparing the ritual to bring Osiris back to life, finally uniting the realms of gods and mortals in harmony. The cycle of life, death, and rebirth was coming full circle, and Horus knew that his journey was just beginning.